Entitled sister-in-law stole our baby name and now she regrets it. I wonder what the name is. This story came November 14th, 2021. Hey y'all, to cut to the chase, my wife and I spent 4 years trying to get pregnant before the wrong side of 35. We are currently 33 respectively now and are blessed with a wonderful infant son. That makes me so happy for you. My wife has a younger half-sister that she has been low contact with for some time. The woman is entitled and toxic and also her mother's golden child. We have refused to let her or my mother-in-law in the house since they both blatantly tried to make off with my wife's jewelry box a couple of years ago. The box contained a lot of valuable jewelry inherited from my wife's grandmother. Said jewelry is now in a safety deposit box as per my suggestion. My wife and I had nearly given up everything trying to conceive when it suddenly happened, and we were ecstatic. After we found out that we were having a boy, we started looking into names. I ended up suggesting the name of my Scottish grandfather, and my wife loved it. So that is the name that we settled on, but we made the mistake of posting about it on social media. Well, no surprise to the stereotype in this mess, my sister-in-law was pregnant too, and was months further along than my wife, and also having a boy. She decided to claim my grandfather's name for her own son. And not just the first name, but the middle name too. We called her pissed over what she was doing, and she smugly told us there's nothing we can do about it. Which she was sort of right. There was nothing we could do about it legally, as it's not a crime to steal planned baby names. We realized that the drama was exactly what my sister-in-law wanted, and she thought that by taking the name for herself, we would not be able to use it. I laughed and I told her that while what she did was dirty and underhanded, we would keep our chosen name, and she could just deal with it whether she decides to go through with copying us or not. Well, my sister-in-law's baby daddy called me and said I was an unreasonable for still wanting to use the name after sister-in-law claimed it. I said she claimed nothing, and since we couldn't own the name, then neither could they. Before he ended the call, he threatened me by saying that I would be sorry if we didn't change the name. Then he hung up before I could respond. I mean, it's your grandfather's name as well. It holds very special meaning to you. Months later, my sister-in-law has a healthy baby boy and names him my grandfather's name. We did not show up for the birth, both because of the pandemic and because we simply didn't care to be there. Sister-in-law called us wanting congratulations, but we told her we simply did not care, and that if she wants still insisting that we change our baby's name, then she would be in for some big disappointment because we are not. Sister-in-law demanded I put my wife on the phone, but it was already on speaker and my wife spoke up and said she agrees with me entirely. We weren't changing the name. Sister-in-law hung up on us, but soon started sending emails with text walls of names, even suggesting similar ones. I responded back that the name was from my grandfather, and that is why we are not changing it. She shut up, and we didn't hear from her again until our own son was born. 2 months later, we were blessed with our son. He came out perfect, and we named him just as we had intended. Well, no surprise, my sister-in-law called us a few days after the birth to scream in our ears that we copied her son's name. I pointed out that she was the real copycat since she had no family ties to the name, and we did. And anyone who looks at our family trees could see that. Then my wife spoke up and said after the attempted theft of her grandmother's jewelry, she no longer considered sister-in-law her sister and would have nothing to do with her nephew either. For months we were bombarded with messages and emails from my wife's side of the family. Half were on our side after finding out the whole story, and the other half were not. And sister-in-law's baby daddy, true to his word, showed up at my door to make me sorry. I'm not sure what his plan was, but I pretty much towered over him. I'm 6'1" and well built from regular exercise and 3 trips to the gym a week. He, on the other hand, was very skinny and about 5'6" with a baby face that was badly hidden by a slim beard. I told him my house had cameras and to get off my property and never come back. He just yelled a few obscenities at me and then drove off in his beat up old car. He really showed you. Do you feel sorry yet? That is so annoying. Sister-in-law and mother-in-law called us from a different number to yell at me for making sister-in-law's baby daddy feel emasculated. I didn't even threaten the man. I just told him to leave and not come back. And if he didn't want to feel emasculated, then he shouldn't have come knocking. Then they tried to bring up the issue of the baby name again and demanded we change our son's name as he's so young, so there's plenty of time to do it. We held our ground and told them that they were bonkers to still think that they were in the right after they copied our choice of name just to try and get one over on us. I said that sister-in-law didn't even name her son that out of love, but out of spite, just to try and stick it to my wife for no good reason. Then my wife called them both out on the way she was treated growing up, how entitled sister-in-law and mother-in-law have always been, and how she was glad to leave them far behind. And she wants nothing from them, and they won't have anything from us. That left her sister sobbing, and her mother called me a royal bastard before hanging up the phone. That was no contact again for a little while until sister-in-law called us again sometime later to bitterly tell us that we had won. She and her baby daddy got in a huge fight, and he left. He was apparently very sore that sister-in-law didn't let him even give their son a middle name from his family. And he said he was sick of the BS and wanted his son named after him and not some guy he wasn't even related to. Would you look at that? Sister-in-law finally caved and they got the boy's birth certificate reissued with a completely new name, which cost sister-in-law around $500 or so, she claims. Sister-in-law then demanded we at least compensate her for the name change, plus another $100 for the emotional damage, as now she's going to have to get used to calling her son by a different name. We laughed and said this would have never happened if she hadn't stolen our baby name to begin with, and we did not owe her anything. Since then, we've been in no contact with both her sister and her mother, but my father-in-law, who's a very nice man and divorced from mother-in-law for obvious reasons, would come by often and he loves his grandson. From what he and the other relatives told us, the situation between sister-in-law and her baby daddy was pretty tumultuous, but we don't care. Not our monkeys, not our circus. I need to know from parents out there, because oftentimes I see it from friends who have kids and other people that they pick their baby names. Before the baby's here, a lot of people already have some names in mind that they're wanting to use. How would you handle this if your sibling stole the first name and middle name of baby on the way? I want to know. Obviously, I can't personally relate to this in that sense. But let me tell you, back in the day, like in high school and university, when I wanted to be a mother in the past, I had baby names that I wanted to name my children. I will not be repeating them here. Some of them were, well, you know what? I stand by them. They're unique. Let's check out what the people of Reddit are saying, and I'm gonna see you in the comments for what you are saying. Someone said, this was very satisfying to read. Sister-in-law sounds awful. OP responded and said she is a completely spoiled, toxic, and petty woman. Her cousin and her mother too, so we want nothing to do with the lot of them. Next comment. Just curious, but this sounds like your wife, sister-in-law, and mother-in-law are from an Asian country by chance. OP responded and said, nope, just plain American Karen family drama. It's really not a cultural issue. We have the first update and it came the next day. I didn't elaborate about my wife's extended family in my prior post, but to be frank, they are mostly just plain nasty. My wife has a younger half-sister from her mother's second marriage, but from what I'm told, the half-sister's father was very emotionally and physically abusive to my wife and didn't stick around for more than 10 years before flying the coop for reasons I don't know. And because my wife has a different father, she also had different grandparents. My wife's father is a very nice man, and we get along quite well. He divorced my wife's mother early on in their marriage because she is completely toxic. Because of having different parents, there's a 7-year age gap between my wife and her half-sister. Said half-sister ended up being pretty much the baby of the family, and they paid little attention to my wife once sister-in-law was born. So my wife left to live with her father full-time at some point in her teens, and her mother made a huge stink about it because without her, she no longer got child support money. That woman has been nothing but crass and snide to me since I met her. I think mainly because I'm not rich, since she bluntly said my wife could do better. I make a decent yearly salary, so I cover my expenses just fine. I have my own house, and I now have a wonderful family. Sister-in-law, as I said in the first post, was the golden child. She was brought up in pretty much all the stereotypical ways that you can imagine. Never held accountable, never made to pay her own way on anything, got into all kinds of trouble because she was spoiled rotten. You can think of her as almost having been an embodiment of Veruca Salt minus the rich enabling dad. Isn't that Veruca from Willy Wonka?
I'm Veruca Salt.
And when she first met me, there was quite an awkward and nasty period before she met her baby daddy. Around that time, my wife's sister turned 18. She came to visit us more often and also started asking to spend the night on weekends. I left that decision up to my wife, and she allowed it because she hoped that it would help her and her sister become closer as siblings. But over time, I noticed that sister-in-law was hanging around me more. And she was dressing in skimpier clothes and complimenting me a lot. She loved to pinch my arms and said I was like a Ken doll with muscles. Then one day she actually tried... What? She actually tried to put her hand on my... That was the last straw, and I told her to leave. Okay, well... That's assault. She said I didn't know what I was missing before my wife laid into her and they had a huge fight. See, I would have been no contact from that moment forward. I wouldn't even have sister-in-law in my life come baby time. Sister-in-law said my wife didn't deserve a man like me before storming out. I guess my sister-in-law found me attractive and thought she could take me away from my wife, or perhaps she just wanted to bait me. I don't know. But I do know that I would never let something like that happen. I love my wife dearly. She's a positively radiant woman who knows how to make me smile every day. Oh, to be loved like that. I could never be unfaithful to her, but sister-in-law did not give up. She got her cousin in on things and continued to harass us. Sister-in-law heavily flirted with me on multiple occasions whenever we visited our mother-in-law over the next couple of years. Well, his mother-in-law. She even started getting her cousin involved, and together they actually ganged up on me at a family Halloween party once. They were both dressed in skimpy animal ear cosplay outfits and actually proposed that we go upstairs and have a party together of 3, a party of 3. You guys know what that means. I not only declined, but I told them that they both need to find some nice single guys their own age. Then I immediately told my wife what happened. She laid into them in front of everyone at the event, but my mother-in-law sided with her golden child and got several other relatives to have her back by claiming I was lying to cause trouble. So we just left to avoid more drama. Around the time sister-in-law's 21st birthday came and went, mother-in-law called us furious that we missed the birthday and we didn't even send a gift. And apparently sister-in-law was crying over it. I said I was not comfortable around her anymore because she attempted to seduce me multiple times. And my wife said that it was not my choice but hers whether or not to send a gift. And she didn't want to because of what her sister did. And mother-in-law never even so much as scolded her for it. Mother-in-law called it young hormones and said families shouldn't be so cruel to each other. And they also shouldn't hit on each other. Just saying. There was another big fight between my mother-in-law and my wife, and we went low contact with the bulk of her family for a while. Then 2 years ago, my wife's grandmother passed away. She left most of what she had to her son, my father-in-law. But among the things my wife got was all of her jewelry. It was all vintage antique jewelry that had been passed down to only women in the family for years. What I would do to go through and look at that jewelry. Vintage jewelry. It's really sad, but we lost, if you're new here, we lost Matt's mom a couple years ago, and we all did go through her jewelry box afterwards when we were going through things, and we kept all of it. We really did. But some of it was just so pretty. Anyways, let's not talk about that because we all know that I'll start crying. And we had the collection appraised and was valued as a whole at several $100,000 because the jewelry was not only vintage, but some of it was around 200 years old. We decided it was best to keep the jewelry locked away in the grandmother's jewelry box, which in itself is also a valuable and made antique. We figured that was it. But all was not well with mother-in-law and sister-in-law. They both had shown up at the reading of my wife's grandmother's will, and my mother-in-law was appalled that she got nothing. Even more so after finding out my wife got the jewelry. My wife's grandmother had no relationship with sister-in-law at all, and barely one with mother-in-law. So sister-in-law wasn't even mentioned in the will. Mother-in-law threatened to take us to court and contest the will, but never did. Instead, she tried getting nicer to us, and my wife decided to give them one last chance and allowed them into our home again. Well, aren't you nicer than I am? But as soon as our backs were turned, they tried to make off with the jewelry and all of its contents. I had gone out to pick up some pre-ordered food for dinner, and my wife was distracted by her mother. Her sister had pretended to use the bathroom and raided my wife's vanity. But I caught sister-in-law outside by sheer chance that when I pulled in the driveway, because I wasn't gone as long as they had hoped, as soon as my headlights flashed her, she dropped the box on the ground before jumping in mother-in-law's car and locking herself in it. My wife and mother-in-law came running out when they heard me cursing up a storm. My wife saw the smashed jewelry box and freaked out. Oh, I didn't even think that it would probably shatter. Oh, the devastation. My mother-in-law realized she and sister-in-law were caught and had a huge fit over how she believed my wife didn't deserve the jewelry. I got between them, and my mother-in-law hit me a few times and even drew some blood with her sharp nails. Like, press charges on these people. But she drove off before we could even get another word in once my wife said that she was calling the police. We left the evidence untouched on the ground and we called the police. Mother-in-law and sister-in-law were arrested, but basically got a slap on the wrist with only community service and a fine. The jewelry box was badly damaged. It had a long crack that started up one corner and went all the way to the top, and one of the brass hinges broke. I took it to someone who restores old stuff, and it cost hundreds of dollars to restore it. I went to see mother-in-law and said she and sister-in-law will be paying for the repairs to the box, or we would be taking them to court over it. My mother-in-law told me that wasn't happening until I brought up the fact that we still have documented police evidence that sister-in-law tried to steal the box, and I could also sue my mother-in-law for assault that she did to me. She wrote out a check to cover the damages right away and then told me to leave. Before we continue, I need a sip of water, and guess what? So do you. So drink your water, all right? It's hydration station time. Cheers. You guys, look what I have reunited with. Do you remember when I bought this whole set of fruit cups from Dollarama and my favorite one broke like within the first few weeks? They got them back at Dollarama, so I grabbed the orange one. We're reunited like a year later. It was meant to be. I said that the check better not bounce or have a stop payment put on it, or I'd have zero problem taking her and sister to court. The check thankfully cleared without an issue. We got the jewelry box back looking even better than it did before. But we decided the jewelry wasn't safe in our home anymore and had to put it in a secure safety deposit box, where it has remained to this day. This incident was also what made us decide our home needed cameras, and since then we have installed some. Then, from my first post, you all know what sister-in-law did by copying the baby name my wife and I chose, which was also the name of my grandfather, so you can read how that went. What I didn't say in that post was how much my wife's other relatives that sided with sister-in-law put us through, especially mother-in-law and sister-in-law's cousin. Mother-in-law called and texted us repeatedly from a variety of different phone numbers demanding that we change our son's name, both before and after he was born. We never once even humored her, and the cousin harassed us online multiple times. I ended up pointing out the time that sister-in-law and her cousin had cornered me and tried to proposition me, and then the cousin blocked me on Facebook when people started questioning us both about it, since mother-in-law had kept that situation on heavy damage control back then. Several false rumors were spread about us, and my wife's family ended up divided, and they are still divided now because of this. But mother-in-law, sister-in-law, and sister-in-law's cousin, and a few other family members close to them were fully on their side. They believed that it didn't matter where she got the baby name from, said the name was hers now, and that we needed to let it go. I fired back that there was nothing to let go. Sister-in-law copied the name we had, and we still used it because it was my grandfather's name. We weren't asking her to change her kid's name. We just weren't going to change our son's name because she copied it. And since we weren't going to associate ourselves with them anymore, the two kids would be complete strangers to each other anyway. The false rumors spread about me and my wife were pretty bad. For me personally, my sister-in-law tried to claim I was secretly only into younger women and that I would leave my wife as soon as she hit 40. She also tried to say that my son isn't really mine and claimed my wife had an affair because I wasn't getting her pregnant. I never asked her to do it because I never believed them, but my wife got a DNA test just to prove that I am my son's father to them. After that, the rumor mill died down and eventually stopped. After the mess where sister-in-law and her baby daddy nearly broke up and she changed her child's name, we were paid a visit by the cousin. She demanded we pay the money owed to my sister-in-law for the name change, and when we refused, she screamed at us that we ruined her sister-in-law's relationship, and now her child's new name will always be a reminder of what we did. I simply told her to leave as we didn't start this mess, and we didn't even try to end it. We just wanted no part of it. Sister-in-law's cousin flipped me the bird with both hands and said she wished that she could do it with her toes too, and then left. Before she got into the car, I said if she ever tried to come back, I would call the police and file a restraining order. And that's pretty much it, as we were and still are completely no contact with mother-in-law and sister-in-law, and the cousin too. I think that's how it should be at this point. Let's see the top comments now. Someone said, that is one crazy family. They need to get their own lives instead of obsessing over yours. I'm glad your side of the family is sane and happy, and I hope the crazies are just a funny story to tell from here on out. Next comment, you guys need to move without telling anyone where. Yeah. That sucks that they can just show up at your door anytime. How annoying. OP responded to this and said, I would like to. However, I've got a good house in a great neighborhood with a mortgage that I can easily afford. I'll own the house completely in 10 years. I'm also fairly close to my job. Also, we're not that close to sister-in-law and mother-in-law. There's a good 50+ miles between us. So they don't just drop by often. We also got cameras and an active security system. Okay, I feel better about that. Let me know your thoughts on this in the comment section, especially about the baby name thing. You know, I want to hear from the parents out there. See you in the comment section. Stay classy, stay sassy. I'll see you tomorrow.